Late afternoon, somewhere on the northern plains, deep in the heart of January. The light is already going. A small hunting party stops on a low rise and looks back the way they came, and every one of them understands the same thing at the same moment. The wind has shifted. The camp is too far. They will not make it home tonight. There is no cabin waiting for them out here. No wood line close enough to matter. No fire, no walls. Nothing but the sky closing in, and the temperature falling toward 40 below, where Fahrenheit and Celsius finally agree, and where exposed skin begins to freeze in minutes. So, ask yourself, honestly, how does a human being survive a night like that, with no shelter, no flame, and nothing but what they carry on their back? Because we know what happened to others who tried. Early expeditions crossed this same country carrying wool coats, iron stoves, imported rations, and written maps. And the plains buried them anyway. Whole parties vanished in a single storm.
And yet the people who already lived here crossed these frozen grasslands for thousands of years, hunted through them, raised children in them, and came out the other side of winter again and again. It wasn't greater strength. It wasn't luck. And it was not some inherited ability to feel the cold less than you or I would. They did not fight the winter. They learned how to live inside of it. By sunrise the next morning, every member of that hunting party stood up and walked home. And the thing that saved them was not any object they were carrying. It was something they had been taught as children. But the very first shelter they used that night wasn't made of hide or wood or snow. It was made of meat and fat, eaten weeks earlier. Because the first line of defense against a night like that was never fire. It was metabolism. Before a hunter ever thought about walls or wind, his body was already the stove, and the fuel had been chosen months in advance.
Through the cold season, the people of the plains leaned hard on animal fat, and above all, on the fat of the buffalo. And modern nutrition explains exactly why that worked. Gram for gram, fat carries more than twice the energy of protein or carbohydrate. It burns slowly. It burns long. It keeps releasing heat hour after hour from the inside out at 3 in the morning when there is nothing else left to burn. And the perfect delivery system for that fuel was pemmican. Dried meat pounded fine, rendered fat poured over it, crushed berries worked through it, packed dense and stored in a hide bag. Light to carry, enormous in calories, good for months, sometimes years. And this is the part people miss. It required no cooking at all. No gathering firewood in a whiteout. No smoke rising off the snow to tell anyone for 20 miles exactly where you were sitting. Just food, ready in the dark. But pemmican was never really the work of the man carrying it.
It was made in the autumn by the whole camp. Women slicing and drying, elders rendering fat over low heat, children hauling berries, hands working for weeks while the weather was still kind. So the bag in that hunter's hand on the worst night of the year was the labor of 20 people from 3 months earlier. Winter survival out on the plains was decided in the fall. And once the food was in you, the discipline began. No wasted movement, no hurrying. And the iron rule above all others, do not sweat. Sweat today is ice tonight. Wet is not discomfort. Wet is death, delayed a few hours. But even the strongest body eventually loses. And when the wind climbed past anything a person could stand, they turned toward the one thing every instinct in you says to run away from: snow.
You look at a field of snow in a storm, and you see the thing that is trying to kill you. They looked at the same field and saw building material. And they were right, because the physics is on their side.
Fresh snow is not solid at all. It is mostly air, held in millions of tiny pockets between the crystals, and trapped air is one of the poorest conductors of heat on Earth. That is the same principle inside the expensive parka hanging in your closet right now. So, a trench dug into a drift, a low wall of packed snow piled on the windward side, a hollow scraped out beneath a bank. A shelter like that can sit dozens of degrees warmer than the open plain 3 feet away, heated by nothing but the bodies inside it. And here is what experienced hunters understood that most people still get wrong. The temperature is not usually what kills you. The wind is. Moving air strips heat off a body many times faster than still air ever could, which means that if you can stop the wind, you have already won half the fight. They were not building warmth out there. They were building stillness. Then came the part almost everyone forgets. The frozen ground underneath you is a silent thief, pulling heat out of your body all night long, patiently, no matter how good your clothing is. So before anyone lay down, something went between the body and the earth. A buffalo robe, an armful of dry grass, evergreen boughs, reeds from a creek bed. You can survive cold air. You cannot survive cold ground. And all of it depended on choosing the right place to stop. A shallow ravine, a dry stream bed, a fold in the land, the root mass of a fallen tree. Knowing where to stop mattered as much as knowing how to endure. Every one of those shelters was built to last exactly one night. By morning, it was abandoned, and the prairie took it back without a trace. They built nothing the land could not reclaim. But some nights, there simply isn't enough snow. And on those nights, they used a shelter that could not be built at all, only agreed upon. When there was nothing left to build with, the people became the shelter. A hunting party would lie down together in a tight circle, robes pulled over the whole group, and the arrangement was never random. The strongest adults took the outside, backs to the wind, using their own bodies as the wall. Children, elders, anyone injured or worn down to nothing, went into the center where the trapped warmth pooled. And then, through the night, something quietly extraordinary happened. Whoever had gone numb on the outer edge would shift inward, and whoever had recovered their heat would take that place at the edge without a word. No one gave the order. No one kept score. No one announced their turn. The rotation was the law, and the law was learned long before speech. Sit with what that actually means. In a culture where survival hung by a thread every single winter, the coldest position in the circle always belonged to the strongest person there. Strength was not a privilege. It was an obligation. Even the camp dogs came into that circle, giving warmth and taking it back, thick coats blocking the wind for the people pressed against them. And the robes over all of them were doing something most people misunderstand to this day. It was never the leather that kept you alive. It was the air held inside it. Garments were cut loose on purpose, never tight, so that a layer of still air sat against the skin. Buffalo robes with the deep winter fur turned inward. Moccasins stuffed with dry grass or buffalo wool. And when the packing went damp, you pulled it out and replaced it. That simple. Then the skin itself was armored. Rendered fat and bone marrow grease worked into the face, the nose, the cheeks, the hands, exactly where frostbite comes for you first. It clung for hours and shed wind far better than anything water-based. Sometimes ochre or charcoal was mixed into that grease, and it became paint, carrying meaning, carrying identity. And underneath the meaning
it was still doing its work. Beauty and survival were the same layer. And all of it, came off one animal. Meat fed them, hide clothed them, bone became tools, sinew became thread, fat became the shield on their faces. Nothing was wasted, and that was not sentiment, it was arithmetic. And still, the fat, the snow, the hides, the circle of bodies, none of that was the thing that actually saved them that night. The last thing that kept them alive weighed nothing, cost nothing, and could not be taken away. And it was the only one they had to learn as children. It was a calm mind. That was the last thing. And it was the thing that mattered most, because out there, fear killed faster than the temperature ever did. Watch how it actually happens.
The frightened man keeps walking, convinced the camp is just over the next rise, and he walks until his legs are gone, and there is nothing left to build a shelter with. The overheated man opens his robe to cool down, sweats into his clothing, and seals his own fate 3 hours before he feels it. The desperate man ignores the first white patch on his cheek because stopping feels like giving up. The cold does not need to kill you. It only needs you to make one bad decision. And experienced hunters did the exact opposite of what panic demands. When the storm came down on them, they slowed down. They stood still and read the wind. They read the shape of the land. They solved one problem, then the next, and every single movement had a reason behind it. None of that was improvised in the moment. It was installed decades earlier. Children on the plains learned to read tracks, clouds, and wind long before they were ever allowed to hunt. There were no manuals and no classrooms. There were stories and seasons, and old people talking in the evening, repeating what their own grandparents had told them, while the young ones half listened and assumed it was only a story. Because the best emergency is the one that never happens. Preparation always outranked improvisation, and nobody was ever expected to survive alone. So come back to that hunting party, caught out on the open plain in January with no fire and no walls. Morning comes. The wind drops. They stand up, shake off the snow, and walk home. And the thing that saved them was never in anyone's pack. It was in those summer evenings when the elders talked and the children thought they were just listening to stories. We have down parkas now, and GPS, and tents rated for weather these hunters never had a word for.
But read the modern survival manual, and the rules haven't moved an inch. Stay dry, hold your heat, spend your energy carefully, eat fat, get out of the wind, and prepare long before you need to. Technology changes, physics doesn't. Nature was never trying to defeat them. It was waiting to see who was willing to learn. So the next time you look out at a silent field of snow and think of it as empty, remember that it was once home to people who knew how to listen to it. Which of these surprised you most? The warmth hidden inside snow? The pemmican made 3 months before it saved a life? Or the circle of bodies quietly trading places in the dark? Tell me in the comments. I read them. And if you want to know how people built permanent winter houses in a place where 40 below is just an ordinary Tuesday, stay with us, because next time we're going north to the Athabascan winter house.